Hello everybody and welcome to Silverstone for the fourth meeting of the International GTOpen season. We have got 70 minutes of excitement to look forward to around one of the finest circuits in Europe, the home of the British Grand Prix, Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Well, last time out in Paul Ricard, we had one of the most magnificent weekends of racing in the history of the championship. And well, as we come to the halfway point of the season, we surely hope that we'll have much the same again today. It's a very warm welcome from Ben Evans to a beautiful afternoon here at Silverstone, where it is very hot and humid, but nonetheless summer has finally arrived in the United Kingdom. Well, 2 months too late, and it really is ideal conditions for going motor racing, also watching motor racing as well. And we should be in for a treat this afternoon because the top three cars on the grid in qualifying this morning were separated by just 65 thousandths of a second. And it was Colm Ledegaard in the Garage 59 McLaren who took pole. Ledegaard, who was so dominant in the first half of race one at Paul Ricard, until you remember he had that very ill-timed puncture just as the pit window opened, but unfortunately just at the start of the lap. He and Alexander West still looking for their first win of the year. Second on the grid, and just 35 thousandths of a second adrift, is the new entry for this weekend. It's the Nigel Mustel Wessex Racing entered Lamborghini Gallardo of Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger, an extremely strong driver pairing. Enger, of course, the ex-Prost F1 racer, and Craig Dolby, a star of Super League Formula, one of those drivers who, amongst his peers, is rated as one of the most talented drivers never to have made it to Formula One. Third on the grid is going to be the Teo Martin BMW of Gustavo Jacquemin and Fernando Monnier as we follow the progress of Sally Yuluk in the TF Sport Aston Martin to the grid. And last time out in Paul Ricard, it was a heartbreaker for Sally Yuluk. He was chasing Michael Benham late on. Benham spun, he tagged Yuluk into a spin, and that allowed Fabrizio Cristani and Thomas Biaggi to come through to take the race victory and the championship lead. So it's Cristani and Biaggi who lead the points, 10 clear of Phil Keane and Sean Balfe. TF Sport Aston Martin, one of several British entries for this weekend. And Yuluk and Hankey, after the disappointment in Estoril, where they didn't get to race after the car picked up damage in qualifying, now starting to get their season underway. But they're currently 9th in the points, but beginning to rack up the more consistent finishes. But that elusive first podium is still to be gained. Maybe it will come today. It's Yuluk who's going to start the race. Ewan Hankey, who knows this circuit very, very well, will take over for the second half of the race. It's a 70-minute race, the first race of the weekend. Of course, the mandatory pit stop, which will come once we're 20 minutes in until we're 42 minutes into the race, which is when everything can start to get turned on its head just a little bit. Very busy grid and lots of spectators here at Silverstone today to enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the action headlined by the spectacular cars of the International GTOpen. So there you just catch a glimpse of the Wessex Lamborghini Gallardo of Craig Dolby rolling into position second on the grid. Here is our pole sitter then, Colm Ledegaard in the Garage 59 McLaren, which he shares with Alex West. It's the team manager Tim Mullen just passing on some last moment instructions to Ledegaard, who gives the thumbs up from the cockpit. Chance to enjoy the Lamborghini Gallardo. Craig Dolby at the wheel, and Craig in effusive form this morning. Of course, we have seen Craig on the International GTOpen podium before. That was at the wheel of the Nissan he shared with Lorenzo Bontempelli at Areth a couple of years ago. Here is the Teo Martin BMW of Gustavo Yackerman and Fernando Monye, and it is the very popular Colombian driver Gustavo Yackerman who will be starting the car. He and Fernando Monye currently 6th in the standings, mainly as a result of that disastrous weekend at Spa. So they'll be looking for 2 podiums this weekend. Well, it's a new driving partner for Miguel Ramos in the second of the Teo Martin BMWs. He is joined by Peter Schothorst, the very talented Dutch driver, for the remainder of the season. And reigning champion Miguel Ramos, currently 3rd in the points, 17 off the championship lead of Crestani and Biaggi. 5th on the grid. One of the big talking points since Paul Ricard has been the switch of car for the Balfe Motorsport squad. Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, now equipped with the McLaren 650S GT3. It's Phil Keane who starts the race. Sean Balfe just passing on some last-minute words of instruction. 6th on the grid, the Sports New Mercedes of Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardinia, and it is da Costa who starts the race, and they have been... The Sports New Mercedes has been one of the star cars of the season. 7th on the grid for the Orange One, Team Lazarus Lamborghini of Thomas Biaggi, multiple World GT champion, and Fabrizio Crestani. They are the championship leaders, and they will be hoping to build on that buff this weekend. It's going to be a thrilling title fight between them, Balfe and Keane, and then Miguel Ramos. Here's Tom Ashton making his International GT Open debut in the Raw Motorsport Radical RXC that he shares with Rob Weldon, and then Sally Yuluk and Ewan Hankey in the TF Sport Aston Martin. It's the Turkish driver Yuluk who will be taking to the start of the race. And then to complete the top 10 on the grid, it's Colin Noble Jr. in the Works Radical RXC, and he's got a new driving partner this weekend in the form of Steve Burgess. Steve Burgess, who's had considerable success in domestic radical racing. Eleventh on the grid for Michael Benham and Duncan Tappian. Michael Benham looking to bounce back from the heartbreak of Paul Ricard. And then 12th on the grid, Paul McNeely and Jamie Stanley in the FF Course Ferrari. Now, this could be a really interesting car to track as the race unfolds, because Paul and Jamie were very consistent in free practice yesterday, and Jamie in particular flying. And then Philippe Barrieroth has got a new driving partner in the V8 Racing Renault in the form of the vastly experienced Martin Short. Let's have a look then at how they line up in full, with that front row of Colm Ledegaard and Craig Dolby. That is going to be ferocious in the early stages. Then the all BMW row 2, Gustavo Yackerman and Miguel Ramos. Third row of the grid, Phil Keane and Manuel da Costa. And then we have got the 4th row of the grid, Thomas Biaggi, the championship leader, and Tom Ashton in the first of the Radicals. Watch for the progress of Ewan Hankey and Sally Yuluk as the race unfolds in the Aston Martin Vantage. And likewise for Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy from the 6th row. The same once Jamie Stanley gets at the wheel of the FF Course Ferrari. So the grid just being cleared of the last couple of mechanics and camera people, and then it will be the formation head of the rolling start and the 70-minute race. It means that we could take their places to enjoy the action. So the formation lap seconds away from getting underway as the heat beats down here at Silverstone. Plenty of racing to look forward to over the next hour and a quarter. We're moments away from the 7th round of the International GT Open for 2016. Getting started here at Silverstone. Thank you very much for joining us at Silverstone today, and I think we are going to be in for a treat. We have got some incredibly fast cars and driver combinations on the grid. Strategy, as ever, is going to be absolutely key, because if you've never seen the International GT Open before, to explain, it's a 70-minute race, and they must make a mandatory pit stop. They must change their driver, and that comes between 40 and 60% of race distance. So once we're 28 minutes into the race until we're 42 minutes into the race, the pit window is open. What that means is we'll expect to see Michael Benham and Sally Yullock coming in quite early. It means we'll expect to see some of the others, like Colm Ledegar, staying right out to the very, very tail end of the pit window. In other teams where you've got an evenly matched driver combination, well, they will see how the race unfolds. Of course, a safety car could have a large bearing on the strategy, as could other events. The Silverstone Grand Prix circuit always lends itself very nicely to GT3 competition, a chance for the cars to really stretch their legs down this long hanger straight, and then also some high-speed corners to contend with as well. There's the bright orange Lamborghini Huracan, the championship leaders, Fabrizio Cristani and Thomas Biaggi, and they only scored their first win of the season in the 6th race of the season, but they have been there or thereabouts in each and every race, whereas for Phil Keane and Sean Bowles, second in the championship standings, had a magnificent weekend at Estoril to start the year, but then it didn't quite go according to plan quite as much for them at Paul Ricard, so they'll be looking to climb back up onto the podium with the new McLaren. And talking to Sean earlier, he was saying the car so far they think is working really well, but obviously they're just learning it each and every lap, learning what they need to do with the car, having to really adapt their driving style as well to get the very best out of the McLaren, because that's one of the beauties of multi-mark GT racing, is that each and every car has got very different characteristics, which means some cars will be strong on some parts of the circuit, others will be strong at different corners. However, what is consistent is they all run on the controlled compound Michelin tyre. Talking to the teams in the pit lane this morning, the general consensus was that tyres aren't too much of a concern this weekend in terms of tyre wear. They all felt that they weren't really in jeopardy of getting through the best of the tyre in the long runs they were undertaking during free practice yesterday. But at the same time, there was also a consensus that maybe there was a little bit of sandbagging going on, that nobody quite knows what anybody's race pace is going to be until we do get underway. And that is going to be in a couple of moments' time. The cars beginning to form up into side-by-side formation down the Wellington Straight in preparation for the rolling start. When we do get going, it's going to be 70 minutes of action. Of course, we're on the older layout of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, which means that we will be heading into Copse Corner rather than into Abbey and Farm. And so by the time we come down the hanger straight, we'll get a chance to see who's really made the best of the start. For now, though, they're all bunched up, heading through almost a crawling pace at Luffield. There is the pole position car, Colm Ledegar, in the Garage 59 McLaren. That is the silver and black car. The black and red McLaren is that of Phil Keane. The Balfe Motorsport car, you've got the yellow and black Lamborghini Gallardo of Craig Dolby as the field come through Woodcote now. We are about to go racing for the 7th time this year in the International GT Open. We wait for the red lights to change. They do now. Who's got the jump as they sprint towards Copse for the first time? It's busy in the midfield. It's a very aggressive start from Gustavo Jackerman to the inside of Craig Dolby. He forces Dolby out wide as Dolby's going to rejoin in 3rd. Also well away is Phil Keane. He's up into 4th. And might possibly be shopping for a little bit more as Dolby gets almost sideways in the Gallardo, and Phil Keane draws alongside through Beckett. Brilliant move from Keane. He moves into 3rd. Dolby shuffled to 4th, and also Thomas Biaggi's gone well. He is up into 5th. Well, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined for the race by the reigning British GT4 champion, Jamie Chadwick. And Jamie, a lively start.
Yeah, I was going to say, awesome start for Phil Keane over there. I think slightly scrappy by Craig Dolby, but yeah, it's exciting, even though it's a rolling ball. Oh
dear, it's Sally Yullock who's come into contact with Colin Noble Jr. He's also sent Tom Ashton scattered in avoidance, and we were saying on the formation that the luck hasn't come for Sally Yullock and Ewan Hankey this year in the Aston Martin, and once more, first lap disappointment.
No, absolutely. They're a really quick pairing, so gutted to see them out so early on in this race. But there's time in the race to catch up, unfortunately. Yeah, it does put them to the back, but yeah, there's still work to be done.
So now we've got the inter-Lamborghini battle. It's the Lamborghini Huracan of Thomas Biaggi in pursuit of Craig Dolby. At the front of the field, Gustavo Jackerman trying to stay with Colm Ledegar. Meanwhile, Miguel Ramos, the reigning champion, in pursuit of Biaggi as they turn into the loop. And the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is one that you know well, Jamie. Where can we expect to see the overtaking moves?
I think the key overtaking move has to be down at Stowe after sort of the Maggots and Beckett's complex as we look at this move again.
arguably not how to do it. It was Noble to the inside of Ramos, and then Yuluk, I don't think he saw that Colin Noble was there.
Yeah, a bit of a racing incident there. Noble's obviously gone down the inside, and Yuluk right far on the outside with a wide circuit. Obviously hasn't seen him and just turned across him.
Hugely frustrating for both of them, and it means that Sally Yuluk has lost the best part of 20 seconds through that first sector, and it makes what would have been quite a tough exam question anyway for Ewan Hankey to come up through the field a little bit harder. Now here's Craig Dobby. He's had a slightly lurid first lap of the race, and one of the characteristics of the Michelin tyre is it just takes a lap or two to come in and get up to temperature, and that's possibly what Dolby struggled with.
Yeah, I think he's just looking to find a rhythm now. He's obviously had a bit of a scrappy start, but he's finding his way back into it. Tyres obviously might not have been up to temperature, so yeah, he's still in 4th place, still running really well, so I'm sure he's going to get back onto the back of Phil Keane soon.
So here come the leaders down the hanger straight. Kobe Ledegaard trying to break clear of Gustavo Jacobin. In 3rd place it's Phil Keane, 4th is Craig Dolby, 5th Thomas Biaggi, 6th is Miguel Ramos. That's the Vodafone Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, and Ramos going on to terms with Thomas Biaggi. These are two very experienced drivers, and Ramos using the grunt of the Beamer to close up onto the Lamborghini through the straights, and it means that Biaggi's possibly going to have to ask a little bit of the car through some of the twistier bits.
Yeah, absolutely. The BMW definitely has the grunt down the straights, but yeah, unfortunately not a great start for the BMW, so maybe a little bit out of position there and be looking to find his way back up.
I mean, you've raced against lots of these different marks. Which cars are strong on which different parts of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit?
It varies, and it does come down to our dreaded bop, but yeah, I think round here especially the Lamborghinis seem to go well, as do the McLarens. The BMW new to this year with the 2016 spec M6 is a bit different. Definitely has a grunt down the straights, which works well nicely down here, but it does make it difficult through the twisty sections in the infield. So yeah, I think the bop for this championship especially seems to be really good, in the sense there's 3 different manufacturers qualifying in the top 3. So yeah, I think all cars are competitive in their own, and we'll see how they get on at the end of the race.
Well, Colm Ledegaard is trying to make it a race of his own. He was leading by 1.8 seconds at the end of lap 1. He completes lap 2 now, breaks timing beam. There's his co-driver Alex West, who's smiling at the moment, as well he might, because Ledegaard doubles his lead to 3.6 seconds. We've seen this before from Ledegaard so far this season, and this is what you get as well with these Pro-Am pairings, is that essentially Ledegaard is trying to build as much of a buffer and as much of a lead to mean that it doesn't get too much of a challenge for West in the second half of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Ledegaard's very, very quick, and his co-driver equally probably quite quick, but unfortunately a bronze graded driver, so he's got to do the hard work now, put in the miles and get as big of a gap as he can to give his teammate a nice cushion when he gets in the car.
Well, Craig Dolby, headlights ablaze in pursuit of Phil Keane. Never quite understood this with GT drivers in broad daylight, because I think they're well aware of the rivals, not least here Michael Benham. He's got Tom Ashton behind him.
Nice in the slipstream there.
And Ashton darts the inside at Stowe. Lovely move
Beautiful
from Ashton.
Move.
And that was exactly as you called it, Jamie, down the hanger straight into Stowe.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get a really nice slipstream effect down there and pull out, dinked not too late. He executed it perfectly there, not showing his nose too soon. The McLaren did try and cover him, but wasn't quite enough for him to get through.
So Michael Benham will have to settle back into 9th position, but he knows that he's got the very quick Duncan Tappy to take over from him in the second half of the race. For Tom Ashton, he is sharing this weekend with Rob Weldon, and long-term fans of the Radical UK Cup will recognise that driver pairing from years gone by in that championship, making the step into the Radical RXC GT3. And this is a good performance so far from Tom Ashton, very experienced quick driver. Here's Gustavo Jacobin, 2nd place in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. And Jacobin and Monnier, who lost out on the points at Spa after that accident. Fernando Monnier had a good weekend in Paul Ricard and up to 6th in the standings. They've got 40 points. The championship battle is still very close. So again, Jacobin just trying to build the buffer. There is Teo Martin on the pit wall, watching his charges. And at the moment, not too much to worry about from the progress of Phil Keane. He can't seem to make those inroads.
Yeah, I think obviously at this stage of the race, they've all got to consider tyre management with 60 minutes left. So I think Phil Keane will be sort of managing the gap quite nicely, not looking to work anything too hard at this stage in the race. So yeah, I think it's all stagnated a little bit as they've all kind of tried to find their rhythms.
And I guess for the drivers, whereas maybe not quite so much for us. This is almost how they'd have liked the early stages to have panned out. They've all got a little bit of a buffer over each other. They can get into a rhythm, start to run to almost target lap times that they know are going to preserve the tyres, to make sure that fuel's not marginal, and all the things that could cause them some alarm later on.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great time for them to sort of have a think about all those things you mentioned and really work on getting those target lap times. They'll know in their head roughly what laps they should be doing. So yeah, they'll be trying to be within a 10th every lap, which is madness sometimes. But yeah, all these pro drivers that are out there will be doing just that.
And from your perspective as a driver, do you like the team to be talking to you on the radio about what's going on, or would you rather just get your head down and push on and find your own rhythm?
I'm quite easygoing, to be honest. I quite like to find my own rhythm. I don't need too much talk on the radio. I think every driver in themselves knows exactly what they want and how they work best. Some drivers prefer quite a lot of radio talk, some don't. So for me, I'm quite easygoing. I like to just find my rhythm. I know exactly what lap time I should be doing and I work at that. But sometimes fuel and tyre management is critical, so to be advised on that throughout the race in a championship where you can be advised on things like that is really important.
Well, Sally Yullock, the Aston Martin Vantage looks aggressive anyway. The poise of that car looks even more aggressive, which suggests that that's a driver who is somewhat grumpy about a first lap spin and is looking to recover. And the way that that's manifesting itself is he's currently running in the low 2-minute 3-second bracket. He's already caught up to Felipe Barrieros towards the tail of the field, so he's absolutely charging.
Yeah, Sally's definitely got the bit between his teeth, and he's a really quick so-called AM driver alongside Ewan. So yeah, the Aston, unfortunately the only Aston out there today, but yeah, the Aston looks to be going well, so it's a bit of a shame they've had a first lap incident, but we'll see him catch onto the back of them soon, I'm sure.
Here's Craig Dolby in the Wessex Vehicles Lamborghini Gallardo that he shares with the former Prost Formula 1 racer Thomas Enger. And talking to Craig earlier, he was saying that in practice yesterday they'd look at the data and Thomas would say, oh yeah, just do that there and that there. And he's saying, crikey, that is absolutely beyond what really I'm comfortable doing. And for Thomas Enger, it was absolutely casual to say, yeah, push that hard on that section of the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. But for someone like Craig to have a teammate with as much experience as Thomas, it's absolutely what any driver wants. So you look at that data, scratching your head half the time, but it is vital for his own development, and I'm sure he's learning a lot this weekend.
Now this is interesting. Phil Keane has decided on lap 5 that he has had enough of inspecting the rear of Gustavo Jacobman's car and is starting to come back at him. He was 7/10 quicker last time around. So we watch Jacobman's teammate. There is Peter Schotthorst, who will be making his debut in the car at around about half race distance. And if things stay as they are, we're picking up the car from Ramos in 6th place. Here's Ledergar. Now the battle is the one that's coming together for 2nd and 3rd. Our race leader is 5.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field.
Another green sector 1 for Phil Keane, but then I think they've responded with another sector 2, which is green by Gustavo Jacobman. So yeah, this battle seems to be heating up.
It seems to be somewhat to and fro, doesn't it? As now Sally Yullock in pursuit of Felipe Barrieros. Barrieros has a little bit of a wiggle, so heads into the loop and hugs the inside of the road. Sally knows this circuit reasonably well from his time in British GT. Also, of course, a lot of the teams will test here at Silverstone through the year. And the Aston Martin might well find its way past the Renault RS01 down the Wellington Straight. But Barrieros decides to defend it. They're racing for position and moves across, covers the line into Brooklands. Can he hold it tight for Luffield and not outbrake himself? Yes, he can. And Barrieros might be getting some encouragement over the radio from his new driving partner for this weekend, the assertive Martin Short, who is one of the more feisty characters of British motorsport. Now, Yullock, probably won't challenge into Copse. And would your advice be to wait until Stowe here?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's not much opportunity through the fast left, right, Maggots, Beckett's complex now. With these cars with the air, I think the best he can do is sit up behind him and wait to get the slipstream effect down into Stowe. But he's doing just that. He's dislodged him a little bit.
Yeah, Felipe Barrieros struggling to make friends with the apex, and it means he's going to be a little bit slower through Chapel Curve, and that might give you the opportunity. That the problem being, though, Jamie, that there's an unpredictability really, if you look about where the Renault was going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a bit difficult to always judge it through that complex, but he's done the move and nicely executed. He just needed to sit behind him and dislodge him. It's Ewan Hankey.
Smile from Ewan Hankey. He will have been pleased to see that. Sally Yullock up into 11th place. Colm Ledegaard for the 6th time of asking. Now here's the fight for 2nd and 3rd, and it's come together beautifully. Now this is going to be good. Gustavo Jackermann, former World Endurance Championship racer, former Indy Lights racer, up against Phil Keane, former racer in just about everything, and very quick in just about everything. And now he's got the McLaren working as he wants to, and he's applying the full court press to Gustavo Jackermann as they run down the Wellington Straight, and Phil Keane darts to the inside.
BMW's just got it on the brakes there. Gustavo Jackermann's not going to make Phil's life easy at all, but it's touch and go going into Luffield. There we go, switchback. Beautiful move by Phil. He's judged that perfectly.
And that could arguably be circuit knowledge for Phil Keane. He knew that Gustavo was going to have to get on the brakes a little bit more for Luffield, and in the end that was relatively straightforward. And for Jackermann, it's double trouble, because here comes Craig Dolby coming up on to his tail as they swing through Copse Corner as well. And Jackermann's going to have to stick to his guns, have to stick to the racing line as well. For Phil Keane, this is the opportunity to try and chase down Ledegaard's almost 7-second lead. And that BMW, so quick in the straight line, comes straight onto the McLaren.
Really got the toe in down going into Stowe, so yeah, it's got the speed in the straight line, but I think Phil should have this now, should have it covered. He's just got enough of a buffer there, but he's got a look at the Lamborghini coming up behind him now.
And really, for Phil Keane, he just hopes that Craig Dolby is going to start filling Gustavo Jackermann's mirrors, start making life a little bit busy for him. Dolby, like Gustavo Jackermann, starting his career in single-seaters, was absolutely formidable racing the Tottenham Hotspur car in Super League Formula, going back into what almost feels like ancient history, before making the switch across to GT racing. Now here's another look at it, and as you said, Jamie, absolutely textbook. Jackermann just can't get the car stopped for the apex. Phil Keane thought that might be a possibility. From this angle you see it even better. Jackermann on the brakes, it's not quite enough. Phil Keane darts across. Yeah,
Phil had been planning that way before. He's displaced him going into the first left at Brooklands, and then managed to get the move done into Luffield. So yeah, textbook move there by Phil Keane.
I think it's also worth discussing briefly with racing drivers. You're often thinking several corners ahead of actually where you are on the track.
Yeah, absolutely, especially at a circuit like this where it's fast and flowing, and there are obviously the heavy braking zones, but it's complemented with the fast flowing corners as well. So you've really got to plan the moves in a car like this with the air and what have you. You've definitely got to think about what you're doing quite far ahead.
So we are about 30 minutes away from the pit window opening. We have got that when there are 42 minutes left on the clock. We've currently got 56 minutes left on the clock, and that's going to be open for 14 minutes until we've got 28 minutes left on the clock. So we are in 50 minutes into the 7th race of the GTOpen season here at Silverstone. Colm Ledegaard leads from Phil Keane and Gustavo Jackermann. Craig Dolby in pursuit of Gustavo Jackermann in the fight for 3rd and 4th place, and I'd imagine it's pretty hot work in the cockpit of the cars this afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. These guys will be used to it. They race around Europe, so they'll be used to the heat, but yeah, I can assure you, in these GT cars, no air conditioning unit can cool you down, so yeah, these guys will definitely be getting hot. They'll be pleased it's only an hour race today.
Well, the Lamborghini Huracan is not a car that you'd want to meet on a dark night, because it looks so menacing, even when bright orange, as is the case for Thomas Biaggi. And Biaggi in 5th. He and Fabrizio Crostani have been a very evenly matched driver pairing so far this year, and I expect that Miguel Ramos won't be unduly upset to be running and staying in touch with Biaggi as... Oh, and a mistake from Craig Dolby into Abbey. The car just kicked on him, and he will be very grateful of the runoff area.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a corner that we've seen a lot of incidences at in the F1 only a couple of weekends ago, but yeah, it looked like he just gotten a little bit hot there and it snapped from him. Yeah, he's just gotten a little bit hot, and yeah, the car snapped away from him. Fortunately, the runoff saved him there, and he managed to save it quite nicely without having a spin.
And on the scale of -10 to 0, how much fun was that for Craig Dolby?
I don't think he'll be laughing too much about it at the time, but yeah, he's obviously saved it nicely. He's experienced, he knows what he's doing, so yeah, he's got the car back on track. He'll want to get back onto the back of the BMW now.
And of course, we're in the early stages of the weekend too, and this is a new car for Craig Dolby. It's a new driver partner for Thomas Enger. They can use this race, particularly as he's not got anybody right on his tail, to learn about the car, learn what it's going to do. Meanwhile, Sally Yullock onto turns with Paul McNeely already. McNeely, who's raced in British GT this year.
Deep, and Sally's done the move nicely. Yeah, it's a bit of a British GT reunion here, but yeah, Sally, as we said, he's got the bit between his teeth. He's really charging, so yeah, I wouldn't want to be in front of him.
So Yullock gains the place. He moves up into 10th now, and his next target is Michael Benham. Now this is really fascinating, because now that Yullock is up with Michael Benham, that's predicting a shootout between Ewan Hankey and Duncan Tappy in the second half of the race, which could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, those two are very, very competitive. They're two of the best pros out there.
Colm Ledegar continues to lead the way here at Silverstone. We're 10 minutes away from the pit window opening in the 7th race of the International GTOpen season. Ledegar, who put the car in pole position, we've not seen much of him, and he's doing what he did in race 1 at Paul Ricard, which is running off and hiding, really.
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably one of the quickest drivers out there, so he's doing what he does best and getting his head down before the pit stop opens in not too long.
Sally Yullock already has caught Michael Benham and is... I expect when he gets back to the pits and after the race they'll debrief it, and Ewan will say, Sally, if you drive like this every single lap, we'll win every race without even having to think about it, because he is phenomenally quick at this stage of the race and is, well, now having a repeat of the battle that we had in race 2 in Paul Ricard, which was between Benham and Yullock for race victory. And on that occasion, Michael Benham unfortunately spinning into the path of Sally Yullock, damaging both cars and hurting their chances. And Benham just a little bit offline there, coming into farm, but he tightens it very nicely for the loop. Yullock, they'll be looking for the switchback as they head into entry, tries to draw alongside. Benham shuts the door just in time as they then head down the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, Sally will be looking to do the move down here in the brakes. He doesn't look quite close enough, but that Aston looks absolutely planted, so he'll be looking to do the move soon.
Maybe trying to do a repeat of that Phil Key move of Gustavo Jacobin, just trying to force the mistake by filling the mirrors. Speaking of Gustavo Jacobin, here he is, and Craig Dolby is filling his mirrors at the moment. This is the fight for 3rd and 4th as Dolby rides the curbs, heads out of Chapel Curve, the low-lying Lamborghini Gallardo. You almost lose it behind the slightly higher profile of the BMW.
Yeah, Dolby seems to have a lot of pace, to be fair. Even after that slight mistake, he's finding his way straight back up onto the back of the BMW. So, yeah, he's got a lot of pace in this race, so he'll be looking to find his way back up.
And, of course, in the context of the pit stops and the driver changeovers, he's got Thomas Enger waiting in the wings to take over from him, and that leaves them in a potentially very strong position into the second half of the race. And I imagine if Dolby feels he's being held up like this behind Gustavo Jacobin, the team might get on the radio and say, let's pit in as early as we can, Craig, because then we can feed the car out into some clear air. Yeah,
definitely. It will feed into their strategy as to how they play it. But I think Dolby might be having a look before the window here and trying to get past and get up into 3rd place.
On the brakes into farm, and we've seen a couple of times from the visit of the GTOpen to Silverstone that farm has caused some problems because or rather on the break into village causes some problems because you come through farm very quickly, the car's unsettled and then it can snap away from you. But as you predicted, Jamie, Dolby pulls the pin now, coming on to the Wellington Straight. He's somewhere lurking behind the BMW.
Yeah, he's junked out. Yeah, he hasn't quite got it on the brakes. The BMW looks very, very good on the brakes, but as you said, Phil did a very similar move around here, so can he force the mistake? Not quite.
Gustavo Jacobin's too
on the outside.
Surely not going to be able to get the traction. Yeah. Looks for the switch back into Woodcourt. Oh, and he draws alongside, and Dolby tries to run alongside Gustavo Jacobin. Jacobin has absolutely none of it. The pair of them still side by side towards Copse Corner, and Dolby now has to just settle in to the path behind Gustavo Jacobin, but Jacobin, as a result, possibly a little bit slower through Copse, and it means that Dolby's snapping his heels onto Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, he's not quite got the legs of the BMW down the straight there, but as we said, Stowe's a really popular overtaking opportunity, so if he can stick behind him now, he's not quite close enough, but if he can get in the slipstream, he might look to make a move down into Stowe.
And Gustavo Jacobin showing why he is one of the best in the business, not at all fazed by Craig Dolby, hitting the right lines through Beckett's to focus on the exit out of Chapel, down the Hanger Straight, because he knows the Lamborghini won't be able to jump him.
Yeah, this wouldn't be working a sweat for Jacobin. He knows exactly what he's doing, where to place the car, so he knows the strengths of his car as well, so where to defend or not to. But yeah, Dolby's going to have a bit of a fight on his hands to try and get past this BMW.
Meanwhile, Sally Yullock has found his way past Michael Benham. So the order is Colm Ledegaard leads, Phil Keane is second. We're watching the fight for third between Gustavo Yackman and Craig Dolby. Thomas Biaggi is fifth. Sixth is Miguel Ramos. Seventh, Manuel da Costa, and he leads the GTAM class. Eighth is Tom Ashton. Ninth, Sally Yullock. 10th, Michael Benham. 11th is Paul McNeely. And 12th, Colin Noble Jr. with Felipe Barrieros, the third of the GTAM runners, in 13th. And again, Yackman very aggressive on the brakes.
Yeah, that Lamborghini looks really strong under the braking, especially the high-speed corners. The aero on it really looks to be planted. He's looking again to try and get something in traction, but BMW just has the legs of him. But again, he's tucked up right behind him, so hopefully down into Brooklands he can have a look.
Just seems as if Craig Dolby's just got the confidence to get on the throttle a fraction of a second earlier than Yackman. And will it reward him? This time he draws alongside into Brooklands and goes through.
Perfect,
up into third place. Brilliant move from Craig Dolby. Several laps in the making. And in the end, he made it look reasonably straightforward.
Yeah, it made it look it, but I'm sure he worked very, very hard for that. The Lamborghini, obviously, with the strengths of the braking, he's obviously utilised there. So great move by Dolby, and I'm sure he's going to try and get further up onto Phil Keane if he can.
So here we see it again, and Dolby left it late. And Brooklands, Jamie, you know, well, it's a corner where if you get the car stopped and you're to the inside, you can make it stick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough overtaking opportunity, and it's easy to underestimate the speed you're carrying going down into there, but he's executed that perfectly. He knew that he needed to brake really late to get past the BMW, and he did just that.
Well, this is our race leader, Colm Ledegaard, and Ledegaard is 4.8 seconds clear of Phil Keane. Now, this is potentially very interesting because in terms of second drivers for the second half of the race, Sean Balfe, you could argue, is a little bit quicker than Alex West. So therefore, I think that Ledegaard and West will want a little bit more of a buffer than this potentially.
Yeah, I think obviously he's going to want to get his head down a little bit more, maybe just for a bit of comfort. But I think my money's still on Thomas Enger and Craig Dolby, rather. I think they've got such a strong partnership that come the second half of this race, they're definitely going to close up the big gap that Colm Ledegaard has built.
Be interesting to see. It's 7.5 seconds Phil Keane's advantage over Craig Dolby, but that might start to come down now that Dolby is released into a little bit of clear air, and Dolby almost single-seater style poised with the Lamborghini there through five, absolutely on the limit of the aerodynamic grip.
Yeah, so you can see how aggressive that car looks and how hard he's working it. Obviously we don't want him to overwork the tyres or anything, but yeah, he seems to really have it hooked up and found himself some pace now. He's past the BMW.
Meanwhile, we can tell you from our timing screen that Felipe Barrieros, his team manager, has been summoned to race control with immediate effect, and we will find out in due course what that was for. Also, Sally Yullock has had a warning flag for track limits, as we are now just 3 minutes away from the pit window opening, and this is the point at which the race will start to get turned on its head. And I completely agree with you, Jamie, that all things being equal, Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger are very nicely poised coming to this pit cycle. They've got very strong, consistent driver pairing over the whole race duration.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the whole duration of the race, which you've got to look at, and especially the second half of the race, Thomas Enger getting in the car, I would be pretty chuffed if I had him as a teammate. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's going to definitely close up the lead battle, so make the last half of the race exciting.
Now this is a good battle going on for 10th and 11th place. It's between Michael Benham and Paul McNeely. McNeely in the bright red and blue FF Course Ferrari. Very, very welcome addition to the grid this weekend. And we have got the Garage 59 McLaren, of course, and Mike Benham, who is in charge of that scrap. Meanwhile, Thomas Biaggi just starting to wind up the pace a little bit. He's coming on to terms now with Gustavo Yackman, and Biaggi last time round, in fact, took 8/10 out of Yackman, which just shows the Lamborghini again over a whole race duration is a very nicely balanced package.
Yeah, if we look at the fact that BMWs were on the second row of the grid, I think obviously as a race car the Lamborghini seem to have the better of them. So yeah, both Gustavo Yackman, also there's a Radical just stopped there at the, I think that's the entrance, or just down the straight of the, is that the pit straight?
Yeah, that is the Formula 1 pit straight, and unfortunately that's Colin Noble Jr. in the Radical RXC who is in trouble, pulls off the road, and well, that is potentially very significant because we might be having the arrival of the safety car just as we head into the pit window, which means all those advantages that have been built out get whittled away to absolutely nothing. It's good news if you're Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy. It would be terrible news if you're Colm Ledegaard and Alexander West. That said, Noble has pulled the car well off the racing line. It's on a straight piece of circuit, so it might be that it will be safe to leave it where it is.
Yeah, he's done a good job there to keep that nicely out of the way and in a safe place. It's whether they can get out an escape road in a safe place or not, as to whether they'll need a safety car or not.
Craig Dolby, now he's in some clear air, is catching Phil Keane. He's just on a lap of a 2 minutes 1.9, but the fast lap of the race, Colm Ledegaard, was a 2 minutes 0.881. Shows that the pace that Ledegaard's been running, and now Jackman has been caught by Thomas Biaggi. Possibly suggests to me that Gustavo Jackman has got through the very best of those Michelin tyres, and Thomas Biaggi winding up the pressure. It depends also how deeply into the pit window the Teo Martin team want to run Gustavo Jackman. If they're planning to come in on 42 minutes on the bubble, then it's probably fine. If they're looking for another 10 minutes from Jackman, then that could be quite painful for him.
Yeah, it looks like it's really worked his tyres quite hard in the first half of this race and starting to struggle and falling into clutches of the Hurricane there. So we'll see how he gets on for the next couple of laps, but I would imagine the Teo Martin team will be wanting to pull him in quite quickly.
Thomas Biaggi, so much experience, so many championships to his credit, as he is well within the second now, Gustavo Jackman. But again, I expect he's going to have the same problem that Craig Dolby did, which is that if Jackman focuses in his corner exits onto the straights, even if the Lamborghini is appreciably quicker, it's still going to be very hard for Biaggi to find a way past.
Pit window's open now, so it's whether they decide to get the undercut for the Lamborghini or whether if the BMW comes in, then the Lambo might want to get some clean air and get some laps in its own space.
Well, from what we've seen so far this year, Fabrizio Crestani and Lamborghini's been of a very similar pace to Thomas Biaggi, and so the Orange One Team Lazarus squad might want to bring him in. They've got 14 minutes to play with here, which works out about 6 laps, but Biaggi wants to settle it the old-fashioned way on the track. He just shows himself to the inside at Brooklands. I think Gustavo Jackman needed reminding that he was there, but again, Jackman just can't hit that apex. Well, and into the pit lane.
Looking to get the undercut.
Darting into the pit lane, down to the pit lane speed limit, so it releases Gustavo Jackman. Confirmation, by the way, on our timing screen that Colin Noble's car is going to remain in situ until the end of the race. Also in is Miguel Ramos. That is to hand over to Peter Schotthorst, who was raced here, I believe, in the Renault RS01 trophy, the Renault Sport Trophy, Renault RS01s, as part of the World Series by Renault last year.
Driver change for the Lamborghini.
Pit stops well underway as Peter Schotthorst jumps in from Miguel Ramos. Also into the pit lane is Michael Benham. That's turned over to Duncan Tappy and Paul McNeely for Jamie Stanley. As Duncan Tappy waves Benham into his pit marks, and these teams, Jamie, they practice these pit stops all the time to make them as slick as possible.
Yeah, these are effectively factory teams. They know exactly what they're doing. They're very trained in this, whether it's in this championship or another. So, yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. They do their tyre change and driver change. I don't think there's too much pressure on the time in this instance. So, yeah, they get it done. They make sure everything's okay, shut the door, and away they go. Also
in is Ewan Hankey. He takes over from Sally Yuluk in the TF Sport Aston Martin. Again, not a huge surprise that they're pitting at the start of the window, but despite the disappointment of that spin, that was a brilliant drive from Yuluk to race his way through the field. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what having the bit between your teeth can do and a little bit of red mist. So, yeah, awesome drive. I think he would have been thinking what could have been if he had been up there in the first instance. But yeah, he's handed over to Ewan, and Ewan's a very, very credible driver. So I'm sure he's going to be hoping to maintain this charge. Here's Peter Schotthorst, his first lap in the International GTOpen. And, of course, the way that performance is balanced out through the season is there are pit handicaps that come into play, and Craig Dolby and Thomas Engel, they have an additional 15 seconds in the pits as a new entrant this weekend. So that makes the task a little bit harder for Thomas Engel, who clambers in now, and you're probably too young to remember just how spectacular Thomas Engel was in Formula 3000, Jamie, but he was always one of those drivers who you just knew had a very, very special ability.
Yeah, I think if I was Craig Dolby, I'd be pretty happy handing over to him after that great stint by Craig. So, yeah, definitely, despite the pit stop, I definitely think they're going to be close to getting up there for the rest of this race.
Now, Ewan Hankey has emerged from the pits directly behind Colm Ledegaard, and that's not a bad pacer here for Colm, for Ewan Hankey, because Ledegaard has been the race leader throughout, but interestingly, he has gravitated towards running in the mid-2 or the low 2-minute 2-second bracket. So the laps he set in the 2-minute bracket were quite early on. It's now 2:02s consistently. We're probably so that the pit window closes in 10 minutes time with 28 minutes left on the clock. I'd imagine that Garage 59 will leave it as late as possible to bring Ledegaard in. Whether or not it's going to be as close as we had with Giorgio Pantano back in 2013 when he came in with 2 seconds left on the pit window, we'll see. But nonetheless, for now, Ledegaard knows that he's probably got 4 more laps of his stint to build as big a lead as he can.
Yeah, Ledegaard will obviously, Ewan up behind him will have new tyres, so that's why he's probably keeping with him quite nicely. But yeah, Ledegaard will be working on maintaining this gap. You know, he's been out in the car for long enough now to know exactly what pace he should be running. It's just whether they can leave it as late as possible to get him in and send his co-driver out quick enough.
Phil Keane also staying out on track, not surprising. Now here is Thomas Enger. He has got Peter Schotthorst with him, and Enger, clear of Schotthorst, will now try and get the power down in the Wessex Lamborghini Gallardo. Enger we last saw in a Chevrolet Camaro in the GTOpen a couple of years ago at Monza.
Yeah, Thomas Enger's just finding grips with that car, but I'm sure he's going to be on a charge soon enough and, yeah, fighting down that lead battle despite their extra time in the pits.
Peter Schotthorst, though, doing a very solid job in 6th place as they swing through farm on the brakes into Village. And Schotthorst again, talented driver, really intriguing addition to the Teo Martin Motorsport squad. But Miguel Ramos has had great success with Dutch co-drivers in the past, not least Nicky Pastrelli, with whom he was championship runner-up a couple of seasons ago in the Chevrolet Corvette. But already Enger on this lap has opened up about a second or so over Schotthorst. Enger again, he's making something that's extremely hard look very straightforward.
It's painful as a driver to watch when someone does that, but yeah, he's doing an awesome job. He knows exactly what he's doing, so yeah, he'll just be looking to get his head down and make up for lost ground.
Through Woodcote, this is to complete the 16th lap of the race. We have had all but Colm Ledegaard, Phil Keane, Gustavo Jackerman and our GTAM class leader Manuel da Costa making their pit stops.
Yeah, I think Phil Keane's obviously looking to stay out for as long as he can as the pro in that lineup. But yeah, he's doing a good job keeping consistent laps, so yeah, they'll all look to come in as late as possible.
So the race order then, with 35 minutes on the clock, is Colm Ledegaard leads from Phil Keane and Gustavo Jackerman. Manuel da Costa is in 4th. They are all yet to make their pit stops. Thomas Enger, of those who has pitted, leads the way. He's in 5th from Peter Schotthorst, Fabrizio Cristani and then Ewan Hankey. And it's Hankey in the blue TF Sport Aston Martin who is chasing down Colm Ledegaard. Ledegaard doesn't really want this distraction, but it has sped him up a little bit. He was 2/10 quicker last time round, 2 minutes 2.0 from Ledegaard as he uses every inch of the road. And what you don't get a sense of, Jamie, from the television is the road really drops away as you come out of Chapel.
Yeah, absolutely, and you feel that in the car. So although it's a relatively flat circuit, there are certain evolution changes and you feel cambers and things that slightly upset the car. So as you come over here, there's a rise as the braking and the bump. I think Colm's going to come in soon enough, so he's going to be looking to get the most out of the tyres that are left underneath him and keep Ewan behind him, hopefully.
By my extraordinarily poor maths, I think he's going to have time for 2 more laps, Colm Ledegaard, at the end of this one. And that will see if he can further his advantage. He's 6.9 seconds clear of Phil Keane, with then Gustavo Jackerman a further 16.6 seconds back. And is this going to be the day where Ledegaard and West score their first victory? The answer is it really depends on just how far back Thomas Enger is going to be and whether or not Alex West can hold him off for those 28 or so minutes.
Yeah, I think it's been a remarkable first stint for Colm, so whether he can keep it intact for Dave West or not. Or not, we'll have to see. But yeah, Alexander's, I'm sure, going to be looking to maintain the lead when he gets out.
Meanwhile, Ewan Hankey staying with Ledogar, and Hankey and Sally Ulick still searching their first podium of the season. They've had podium pace every single weekend. They've just had rotten luck. And again, we had that on the first lap of this race with Sally Ulick. If you have just joined us, coming into contact with Colin Noble, both of them spinning. Ulick then putting together a masterful recovery drive, but it does mean that Ewan Hankey is 18.6 seconds back from Fabrizio Crestani after the pit stops, and that is going to be quite the mountain to climb as well for Ewan Hankey, particularly as he isn't getting the benefit of the new tyres here, Jamie, because Crestani's just under 2 minutes 1, and Colin Ledogar's still in the 2 minutes 2 on the old tyres.
Exactly, and also Ewan being stuck behind Com there, it's difficult for him to make much more progress without getting tyres overheated and being stuck behind him with the aero. So yeah, it's an unfortunate day for them, but I think a lot to be said for Sally's charge.
Now into the pits comes Gustavo Jacquemin. Fernando Monnier jumps in. Now that was like clockwork for the Teo Martin team. They are poised with the fuel bowsers ready to go in, as Jacquemin does the job of strapping Fernando Monnier into the car. Just the tyre pressure checks as well underway. Ledogar swoops through. He's going to have time for, I think, one more lap before they're going to have to bring the car into the pits, because otherwise it'll be quite marginal if they get outside of that 28-minute pit bubble. And again, particularly the McLaren, Jamie, it's a car that just looks so stable anyway, and Ledogar even smoother as well.
Yeah, exactly. He makes easy work of it. I'm sure it's not that easy in the cockpit, but yeah, the 650S is a great GT car. It's so successful in all sorts of championships internationally. So yeah, it's probably a nice job for him to be in that car this weekend and coming into the pits, I'm sure, this lap, if not next.
Ledogar just picks up the throttle through Woodcote. 31 minutes and 20 seconds left, so 2 minute lap, 29 minutes left on the clock, and that is going to be a 20 lap stint from Com Ledogar. Oh, he just has a little bit of a wobble though into Copse corner, which is such a satisfying corner to drive, Copse, if you get it right and you nail the line. Now into the pits comes Phil Keane, and that is to hand over to Sean Balfe from second place. So again, possibly looking at the undercut.
Yeah, it's a great first stint for Phil, so he'll be handing over to Sean Balfe.
So in gets Sean Balfe, out gets Phil Keane, and this is the car that they'll be racing in a lap's time. Now, interestingly, our timing screens just told us that the team manager for Com Ledogar has to report to race control after the pit window has cycled through. So something may have been spotted out on the track that they're going to have to respond to. So another element of concern, and nothing else for the Garage 59 team. Again, Ledogar uses every inch of the road a little bit more. Back into the 2 minute 2.2 bracket. We've got a warning flag that's gone to Duncan Tappy as well. I suspect that's probably track limits, and Tappy charging from 11th, as Ewan Hankey will be overjoyed when he sees Com Ledogar peeling off to his right hand side into the pits as they come out of Luffield.
Yeah, Ewan really wants some space now to make most of these new tyres that he's got, but yeah, great first stint in the McLaren, so we'll see how they get on when they get back out after the pits. But yeah, see what Ewan can also do after he gets some space.
What we won't know for another lap or so is where Alex West emerges in relation to Sean Balfe, because it all comes down to just how slick the pit stops are now, how well everything works out through Luffield. Hankey will be going, yes, thank you very much, I've now got some clear track. The problem is he's got the best part of, well, Fernando Monnier has emerged between him and Fabrizio Crestani. He's 10.5 seconds behind Fernando Monnier, as in comes the race leader, Com Ledogar. He hands over to Alex West, and it's going to be the end of the next lap when we'll find out what gaps need chasing down.
Garage 59 boys know exactly what they're doing in this instance, so have every trust in them and just see what Alex West can now do.
Admire the seat insert fling there from Ledogar as he jumped out. Now, Thomas Enger is showing off, frankly. He's just done a 2 minutes, 0.7. He's set the fastest lap of the race. Now, where is he in relation to Sean Balfe? We'll find out at the end of this lap. And will it be chaseable or won't it, is the question. Meanwhile, Miguel Sardini and Manuel da Costa, the GT-AM class leaders in the Sporting New Mercedes, make their switch over. So here comes Balfe. Now where is West? We haven't seen the pit out sign coming on our timing monitor just yet. As Balfe turns through Luffield. Unfortunately, our commentary box doesn't afford us a view of the end of the pit lane. Now, there we have it. And here comes Alex West. Oh, and West is going to have a big buffer over Sean Balfe, but Balfe surges through Woodcote in towards Copse. This is going to be fun, Jamie.
Yeah, Balfe's had a bit of time to get up into temperature and get himself into sort of a rhythm, so we'll see how he gets on, but bloody hell, it's going to get close.
And West, of course, has got the disbenefit of having cold Michelin tires on. He's cold to the track. He didn't qualify this morning, so this is his first time out on track today. Of course, the same goes for Sean Balfe, but they're undercut by a lap, and that could pay great dividends for Balfe. This, the battle for the lead of the race between the two McLarens. I'd like to say it's as my driveway is, but it's not, as they come down towards Stowe Corner. Lovely shot there through the windscreen. You could see Sean Balfe fully at work. They've got Martin Short in the Renault about to be caught as well, and the gap back to Thomas Enger is only 13 seconds with 27 minutes to go. This is going to be very close, because Enger needs to be at least a second's lap quicker than Sean Balfe and Alex West to make this happen.
It's a tough job for Thomas Enger, but I think he is quick enough, definitely. So Sean Balfe has got the other McLaren in sight, so he's going to be looking to get onto terms with him, but my money's still on Thomas Enger.
So we'll give you the full race order at the end of this, the 21st lap of the race. Thank you very much for joining us for the International GTOpen this afternoon here at Silverstone. Hope that you're enjoying the action, and well, summer has finally arrived in the UK this week, and it is blazingly hot as they come towards the end of the lap. Now, what is West's advantage going to be over Balfe, first of all, but more importantly, what's it going to be over Thomas Enger? Because that's going to set us up with the story for the rest of the race. Let's see, they come through Luffield as West is crossing the start and finish line now, and he does a 3 minutes 17.8 on his outlap. Sean Balfe cross the line 5 seconds back, a 2 minutes 4.2. We wait for Thomas Enger. We wait. Here he comes, hurtling through Woodcote. He's 10 seconds back and 3 seconds a lap quicker. Absolutely brilliant. So we have got quite the chase on here with 25 minutes remaining at Silverstone, and it's Thomas Enger who is absolutely flying. He's 15 seconds off the lead of the race. So Alexander West leads, Sean Balfe second, Enger in third. So down the hangar straight, and should say that passions run high in the cars and in the commentary box, so any language that you may have picked up through that pit window, then we do apologise, as Thomas Enger, just the poise of that car is so aggressive.
Yeah, he's really got that hooked up, so he's really looking to get back up onto the top step of the podium if he can. I think he's definitely got the bit between his teeth, and he's quick enough to do it, so yeah, I'm really excited about where this battle's going to go.
This is, well, last year at this event, Sean Balfe had a great battle with Alvaro Parent and was able to keep Alvaro behind him for several laps, and it was one of Sean's proudest moments of his career. But at 2.9 seconds a lap, this is, yeah, unfortunately a little bit like bringing a grenade to a pillow fight, I somewhat fear, because we have got Enger flying. I'll tell you the other driver who's flying just behind him is Peter Schotthorst in the Teo Martin BMW. Schotthorst has just done that car's fastest lap of the race, and it was only a tenth of a second slower than Thomas Enger. There you see him, and Fabrizio Crestani is lurking with intent, only a couple of seconds back from there. And well, you've got to wonder for Alex West and Sean Balfe, Enger catching them for the lead is looking quite likely. It's possible they could be shuffled off the podium.
Yeah, I think it's all going to heat up now. You've got sort of a bit of a mix between pro and am drivers. Obviously, Sean's and Alex's teammates have done a great job getting them a buffer, but it's been narrowed down every lap by Thomas Enger.
So here is Peter Schotthorst through Copse Corner. That last lap from Schotthorst again, only 2/10 slower than that of Thomas Enger. Sean Balfe was 2.7 seconds slower than Enger and Schotthorst, but he was 2 seconds quicker than Alex West. And it's quite possible on this lap that Sean Balfe is going to take the lead of the race from West, and then Enger is probably only 3 laps away from catching him. Fabrizio Crestani as well, a 2 minutes 1.6. Fernando Monnier, meanwhile, is being caught. So just to check the progress of Peter Schotthorst, he turns through Stowe. Again, a little bit quicker than Enger through Sector 1. So the pit stops have been completed here at Silverstone in the International GT Open. We've got 22.5 minutes remaining as we have a look at Ewan Hankey looking to make the move on Miguel Sardinia. As Hankey makes it through. The order is Alex under West leads the way. Second place is Sean Balfe. Here is the battle for the lead between West and Balfe. Third is Thomas Enger. Fourth is Peter Schotthorst. Fifth is Fabrizio Crestani. Sixth, Fernando Monnier. Seventh, Ewan Hankey. Eighth in the GTOpen class is Miguel Sardinia, but he is being caught by Jamie Stanley in ninth. Duncan Tappy is in 10th from Rob Weldon and Martin Short. But now down the Wellington Straight. We thought it was going to happen on this lap, and Sean Balfe right with Alex West. Now, Jamie, these two cars are very similar. Where does Balfe make the move? Where can he get the advantage?
Yeah, I think they'll know each other's strengths and weaknesses by now. Balfe does look quite a lot quicker, so I think definitely he's got to be looking at Stowe. It's difficult for him to make a move anywhere before then. He's close enough, so if he can keep him honest between Maggots and Beckett's, he can either force a mistake or get in the slipstream and get him down into Stowe.
There's a few better sights, is there, than supercars with the sunshine glinting off them as they turn into Copse Corner. Here is a look at, I think, how West came to lose so much of the time, running very, very wide through Abbey, and that will have felt a bumpy ride in the stiffly sprung McLaren, as now Balfe, exactly as you predicted, right with him through Beckett's, but you could see in the background Thomas Enger closing up to both of them. There is Com Ledogar rehydrating the Garage 59 pits as Balfe is tucked in the toe behind Ledogar, but there's going to be no advantage. The cars will be identical in the straight line speed setting. Instead, he's just going to try and force that mistake from West, but West, a very accomplished driver, knows exactly what he needs to do: stick to the racing line, make Sean Balfe do all the hard work.
Yeah, Balfe would have seen the mistake and would have whet the appetite as he gets really hot on the brakes just going down into the complex there. So he'll also be looking in his mirrors and see Enger coming at him, so he's going to be wanting to get a move on with this and planning a move soon enough. Yeah,
what's going to be slightly worrying is that as West and Balfe start fighting, it means that Thomas Enger is finding it even easier as through Abbey, and Balfe was looking one side then the other. Can he try on the brakes into Village? He certainly thinks about it.
He's having a look, isn't he?
He also knows it will be an extraordinarily long drive to Woking if he makes contact with Alex West, and Sean is one of the cleanest drivers in the field. He loves this championship because it's so competitive, but the drivers do give each other respect, so he's not the sort of driver who's going to pull a risky move. At the same time, he can now see that fluorescent yellow and black Lamborghini Gallardo looming large in his mirrors.
Yeah, we've got, I think, all four cars in one shot now, so yeah, it's getting close. I think Sean Balfe will know that he's got to get this move done if he wants to eat away a little bit more at the lead before Enger comes at him. So
we've got just under 20 minutes, time for 9 or 10 laps remaining, and that is going to be quite the task for Alex West to keep Sean Balfe behind him. It's going to be quite the task for both of them to keep Thomas Enger and now Peter Schotthorst behind them. And Enger is certainly thinking about a challenge for the lead on this lap, isn't he? The three leaders all now equidistant as they arrive into Maggot, swing through Beckett's, and any mistake at this point, Jamie, is going to be costly.
Yeah, Balfe just made a slight mistake going through Copse there, which has allowed Enger right onto the back of them both. So yeah, it's all closing up for the lead now, but I think Enger's going to look to try and get the pair of them.
Down the hanger straight. Oh, this is good. 3 cars covered by 3 car lengths. Who's going to pull the pin and challenge into Stowe? You'll get very short odds on Thomas Enger, and here he comes. He looks to the inside of Sean Bouff, who in turn looks to the inside of Alexander West. It means the accordion effect results in none of them changing position, but again, Bouff has to cover the inside line into Vale. It means there's no room at the end for Thomas Enger. He thinks about the outside. He's then going to challenge into club. We'll hope for the switch back on Bouff. Doesn't quite happen. And here is the point where Enger's got to bide his time, because he's got to play to the advantage of the Lamborghini, and where the McLaren's maybe not quite as strong.
Yeah, Enger knows he's got time on his side, so he doesn't really need to rush into this given his pace, but Bouff's doing a great job covering him so he doesn't get past too soon.
And welcome to the party, Peter Schothorst. He makes it 4 for the lead, and this is International GTOpen racing at its very, very best. We have got 18 minutes to enjoy this one, and Sean Bouff doing a brilliant job on this lap of keeping Thomas Enger behind him. And Enger will be, he's too experienced to get frustrated, but he'll be thinking, okay, Sean knows where to cover, he knows where to expect my moves, so he darts the inside into Brooklands, leaves it very late on the brakes, and now snatches second place. And that was a brave move from Thomas Enger.
Yeah, beautiful move, great commitment down on the brakes, but he's just gone a little bit hot there going into left field, but now he's going to look at chasing down Alex West.
And Alex West will be looking in his mirrors and going, Sean Bouff was okay, but oh no, goodness me, I've got a Lamborghini to deal with if I want to win this one. As Enger decides to go for it into Copse, looks to the inside, and that was very close. But Alex West driving really well because he's just sticking to the racing line, focusing on the corner exits.
Exactly, really impressive job by Alex West. Yeah, Enger does the move. I think it was going to be difficult for him to hold him back for long, but Bouff's now looking for a move.
Well, Sean Bouff's defending from Peter Schothorst, and this is good news for Thomas Enger, because as Schothorst has to carve his way past the McLarens, if indeed he can, it gives Thomas Enger the opportunity to make his bid for freedom at the front of the field. As Fabrizio Cristani is wearing the bright orange Lamborghini, he's about to catch up to this train as well. Ewan Hankey is 20 seconds back, but is catching them at 5 seconds a lap because of the pace that they're having to go to defending from each other. So basically the entire field is catching itself as we head towards the closing stages of the race. Yeah,
they're all backing each other up, and I think the man who'll be smiling underneath his helmet is definitely Thomas Enger. Now he's got a bit of space, he can get his head down and really charge for the lead of this race.
Enger turns into Abbey as Bouff not lining up the move just at the moment on Alex West, because he knows he's got to keep Peter Schothorst behind him. Oh, and there's an opening there for Bouff. He wants to take it into Village, as West was just a little bit hesitant, and instead Bouff is going to have to defend to the loop because Schothorst sees half a gap to the inside line. He can't find a way past. Fabrizio Cristani now makes it 4 cars for second place, and all the while Alex West doing a really fine job of making life very difficult for those behind, and it's Cristani who gets the run onto the Wellington straight, and he forces Schothorst into the defensive move into Brooklands. Cristani looks to the outside, he can't find the way past. The Schothorst defends, it releases Sean Bouff now to have a nibble at Alex West.
Yeah, Bouff's there trying to attack and defend at the same time, so Schothorst is really struggling to find a way past without maybe getting collected in the mess. Lamborghini's up alongside already.
Oh, that's so close as Fabrizio Cristani draws alongside Peter Schothorst and makes the move before they arrive into Copse Corner.
Yeah, he's really just caught him off guard there, and that's a beautiful move, and he's just come and joined the party and made up a place straight away, so he's going to be looking at getting onto the back of the McLarens now.
Oh, that was so close. Sean Bouff looked to the inside of Alex West at Maggots. West moved across and covered the racing line, and West is doing an absolutely magnificent job here of just keeping a level head whilst everything is kicking off behind him. Sean Bouff has barely got moved to pull out of the toe because it's millimetre to millimetre stuff as Cristani thinks about looking to the inside of Sean Bouff, but the challenge Jamie into Stowe is the corner really tightens, so the inside not quite as inviting as it looks.
Yeah, it looks easier on camera, but unfortunately breaking down in there on the inside is quite difficult. But Sean Bouff's doing an incredible job keeping all these guys at bay. It's all bunching them up, but yeah, exciting for us.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, Ewan Hankey alert, he is still catching this group very, very quickly. He was 5 seconds quicker than Alex West again on that last lap. He's in 6th. 7th is Fernando Monnier. 8th is Miguel Sardinia. He has got Jamie Stanley on his tail for the GT Am lead. And then Duncan Tappy completes the top 10. It's through Farm, for me, that's Balf's best opportunity on West. It's just where he carries a little bit more momentum than the Garage 59 McLaren. As Cristani looks the outside.
Looking at the outside there.
Into the loop. There's not an awful lot of space there.
Pull that off, it would be a great move, but yeah, just covered the inside there by Balf.
And that was really nice running from Cristani's. Well, he just found the traction to the outside line.
He's going to look here, but oh, great move on the brakes. Yeah, very late. Just given enough room by Balf, but that's an awesome move. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
He just caught Sean Balf napping, didn't he? And Balf didn't quite move across in time to cover the line. And so now it's Cristani's turn to challenge Alexander West. And that's a little bit easier for Fabrizio Cristani, except, of course, these two have previous. Cast your mind back to Western in April when they tangled on the last lap of the race whilst battling for the lead. And so Cristani is going to have a degree of circumspection with the way in which he goes about this manoeuvre. As Balf busy
flashing his lights.
Oh, Cristani is not wanting for commitment. As he closes up.
Tucked up nicely behind him. I think he's going to get in the toe here and manage to get him under the brakes into Stowe. Very close.
So they head out of Chapel down the hanger straight towards Stowe Corner, and this is going to be straightforward for Cristani. In the event, he slips through into second. Meanwhile, Peter Schothorst moves into fourth around the outside of Sean Balf. So it is Lamborghini from McLaren, from BMW from McLaren, all being caught by an Aston Martin. And the Aston Martin of Ewan Hankey is only 14 or so seconds back from this fight.
Yeah, if West can keep Shorthorse at bay any longer, I think Hankey's going to be getting them in sight and hoping to catch onto the back of this train.
Yeah, another lap or so, and Ewan Hankey will certainly be in eye shot of this group. It's going to be a big ask West, particularly as the BMW does have some grunt, and that's what Schothorst is going to try and use to his advantage on the brakes into Village. And again, relatively straightforward there for Peter Schothorst. Does he get it hooked up and stop? No, he doesn't. West looks to the outside. It leaves a gap to the inside of the loop for Sean Balf. They all give each other racing room as Schothorst has a wiggle, getting the power down through Aintree and shuts out West. Oh, no, West loses it. Around he goes at Aintree. He was just pushing that little bit too hard. I hope he's not lost the engine as he rotates the McLaren.
To get it back going again, but that's such a shame for Alex West. He was absolutely flying. Shorts just got a bit deeper in the brakes and he tried to get the cut back, but it's gutted for him. Unfortunately, that was an awesome battle brewing up in the last 11 minutes that he's just dropped out of.
This just can happen, can't it? He was right on the ragged edge. He had done so well to absorb the pressure. Here's another look at it. I mean, was he distracted here by Schothorst?
Yeah, I think he was obviously looking at Schothorst and got on the power with a bit too much lock on. He's obviously on a tighter line there and hasn't quite focused on what he was doing with his right foot rather than, or looking at what Schothorst was doing, and just got around. It's unfortunate, really unlucky, but yeah, gutted for him.
Fortunately, he didn't come into contact with anything as our race leader, Thomas Enger, is scything through the pack. That is Martin Short, who is currently third of the
time to give him a bit of a wave.
Well, I expect they've probably raced each other many, many times. Martin Short, who was a perennial Le Mans competitor with the Roll Centre team, and also has the distinction of actually once eliminating a starting gantry in a crash at Brands Hatch in 1988 in a Formula First, as he makes his GTOpen debut in the Renault RS01.
Few things Martin Short hasn't done, but yeah, he's in a Renault this weekend rather than his BMW with Roll Centre, so yeah, great to see him. It's always nice to see him in any race car, so Martin's a character in the paddock and we all know him well.
Here is Fabrizio Cristani in second place, 6.5 seconds back. Now, this is really good news for Cristani and Biaggi. They came into the race as the championship leaders, and Enger and Dolby, this is their season debut in the GTOpen, and therefore, essentially, this is the equivalent of a maximum points haul, really, for Cristani and Biaggi, as one of their main championship rivals, Miguel Ramos, is on course to finish in third alongside Peter Schothorst. Balf and Keane, likewise, heading to fourth. Maybe, it's a big maybe, Ewan Hankey making great progress in the TF Sport Aston Martin, so that could all change. Meanwhile, Jamie Stanley now leads the GTAM class in the FF Course Ferrari that he shares with Paul McNeely. That's ahead of Miguel Sardina and Miguel da Costa. And then Martin Short and Felipe Barrieros completing that podium. So I guess the next question, Jamie, is we saw that Thomas Biaggi took it pretty steadily in the first phase of the race, and it means that Fabrizio Crestani's inherited a car that has got relatively little wear and tear on it. So whether or not Crestani might just be able to cause some concern for Thomas Enger if Enger's tyres are starting to feel a little bit second-hand as Duncan Tappy makes the move on Miguel Sardina. That moves Tappy up into 8th place.
Yeah, I think Enger's probably got quite a nice buffer now, and he's probably just driving to that buffer. There's only 8 minutes left, so I think it's going to be a difficult charge for Crestani, but he definitely looks like he's got the car underneath him to put in some good sectors and maybe work his way up onto the back of them at least.
Well, that last lap for Thomas Enger was a 2 minutes 3.1 as opposed to 2 minutes 2.0 for Crestani, but that did include the pass on Martin Short, so it's probably not an indicative pace for Thomas Enger. But we'll keep an eye on that. 8 minutes remaining, so they're going to have time for 4 or so more laps at the end of this one. And this has been a slightly muted performance for Duncan Tappy. Was expecting him to come through the field a little bit more than he has. I mean, he's still been running some very solid lap times, but he and Michael Benham in pursuit of their first victory, or second victory of the season, their first since the opening round of the season in Estoril. Tappy turns through Vale, and Duncan, another incredibly versatile and talented driver. He's been a Works Bentley driver as part of his GT career. He was an absolute star of the British Formula Renault Championship, British Formula Ford Championship going back a decade or so ago. And like so many drivers, Jamie, as you know too well, has had to work very, very hard to make a career as a professional racing driver. Yeah,
Duncan's one of the best out there, especially in this form of motorsport. He knows this car well. He's raced in it, I think, in Asia and all sorts. So, yeah, Duncan's definitely one of the drivers that, as a young driver like myself, you look to aspire to be like. He's worked effortlessly hard to get where he is now and deserves all the success that he's got.
Duncan up into 8th place. His next target is Jamie Stanley, but Stanley some 10 seconds up the road, so that is probably about as far as Duncan's going to go without any particular disasters.
I think Enger's responded to Crestani's charge with a purple last sector and has gone 3/10 on that last lap quicker than Crestani.
Yes, a 2 minutes 1.7. Here is our GTM leader then, Jamie Stanley, and Jamie, again, another very versatile driver. We've seen him in the British GT Championship, but he's also been in the Lotus Cup UK, former Northern Formula Ford 1600 champion as well, Jamie. And hopefully this is the first of many appearances in the category for him and Paul McNeely.
Yeah, I was having a chat with Jamie before the race, and he is absolutely loving this Ferrari. He's obviously done GT4 the year before this, so this is a really nice step up for him, and he's super, super talented. So for him to get to showcase his talent on a stage like this in the GTOpen Championship in a Ferrari 488 is great for him, and it's great to see Paul out as well.
And he's just set the fastest first sector of the race as we picked him up on camera, which, if nothing else, confirms his sense of timing.
He knows we're watching.
And again, inch perfect with the line coming through Club, and this is exactly what you look to when you put a pro driver in the car, is not to risk the car and just to deliver consistently quick lap times.
Yeah, exactly. Safe hands that can put together lap times, which is much easier said than done. But yeah, Jamie's doing a great job so far. Now
this is the fight for 4th and 5th, because Sean Balfe is being caught very quickly by Ewan Hankey as Hankey headlights ablaze in the TF Sport Aston Martin in pursuit of 4th, and that looked like it was a distant dream early on with that spin for Sally Uluk. Hankey's got another couple of seconds to overhaul to Sean Balfe, then has got to find a way past him, and he's only going to have 3 laps to play with, including the one that they're just starting, which might not be enough time for Ewan Hankey, because of course it's one thing to catch the car in front, it's quite another to find your way past it.
Well, we've seen how much of a wall Sean Balfe can put up when he needs to, so yeah, Ewan's going to have a tough job on his hand, but he's lapping roughly a couple of seconds quicker, so hopefully we can see the Aston get up there and find his way up into the top 4, which from where they were at the start of this race is an unbelievable effort.
Likewise for Sean Balfe and Phil Keaton in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. This is the car's first ever race, and I think they'll be happy with the pace. They'll know there's something to go for in terms of finding more secrets from the car, but it's run with metronomic reliability and has delivered that potentially quite hefty points-paying punch that needed to. But now Balfe is going to have to get his elbows out because Hankey very aggressive on the brakes, and something I love seeing Ewan Hankey doing in the Aston Martin Vantage, he just seems to make the car float over the braking areas.
Yeah, he really handles it beautifully. He's, the Aston Martin's great car, and it's great for an AM driver, but seeing it in the hands of a pro driver like Ewan is just great.
The pair of them swing through farm on the brakes into village. Balfe covers the inside line. He is not making life at all easy for Ewan Hankey. He's going to cover the inside line for the loop, but that might just harm his exit as Hankey looks for the switchback. Oh, that was lovely from Ewan Hankey.
From Ewan, he's read that like a textbook. He's known exactly where Balfe was going to go, where he's going to be slow off the corner, and passed him already.
So Ewan Hankey moves up into 4th. Sean Balfe demoted into 5th. So they're about to start the penultimate lap of the race.
Just watch this move again, as I think Balfe tried to cover it. He just went in a bit hot and couldn't quite get the traction down to get out the corner, and before he could even look left, I think Hankey was past him.
Here is our race leader, Thomas Enger. The clock is steadily ticking down. We've got time for just this lap and one more, and well, all the talk pre-race was that if the Lamborghini ran well, Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger would be very difficult to overhaul. And the smile from Craig Dolby, I think, tells you that that smart money was probably right, because Enger is 6.1 seconds clear of Fabrizio Crestani. Crestani, the championship leader. He and Thomas Biaggi will be very pleased with that. And likewise, Peter Schothorst in 3rd, making an excellent championship debut. And under no particular threat from Ewan Hankey for that final podium position. Crestani still pressing on.
Yeah, it looks like he's sort of getting to the end of the life on those tyres there as he comes out, and be pleased that a bit of traction control might have kicked in then.
Yeah, the last thing you want to be doing is flinging the car at the scenery on the last lap of the race. There is Thomas Biaggi, who will be quite glad to see the checkered flag. I think the good news for Crestani is that Peter Schothorst is probably in a similar position of not wanting to gamble everything to try and chase down an unlikely 3-second gap in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, exactly. Most of these guys will just be looking at bringing the cars home now. They know exactly what they're doing. Most of these guys out there are pros. I think the man that will be wondering what could have been is Ewan Hankey. They've got phenomenal pace. They're all setting green sectors even now. So yeah, what could have been had that they not had that first lap incident.
And indeed that sequence of laps behind Colm Ledegaard just as he emerged from the pit stop
yeah.
as well. And it's kind of 2 doses of bad luck. And when it all shakes out, they're 8.2 seconds off the podium, and they lost that through the course of the race. But they've got another race tomorrow, because the way the International GTOpen works is that each race has its own qualifying session, so they'll be back out to qualify tomorrow morning ahead of tomorrow's 60-minute race. Into Copse for the final time, our race leader Thomas Enger, pursued by Fabrizio Crestani and Peter Schothorst. Well, for Miguel Ramos, running alongside Peter Schothorst, his championship defence continues quite nicely. Another solid points haul, another consistent finish, another podium for the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW combination. They are the only drivers to have won 2 races, or Ramos the only driver to have won 2 races so far this year. 3rd in the championship standings. Here is Enger through Stowe, still just pressing on in the Lamborghini. And Nigel Mustel, the team principal, will be absolutely overjoyed with this. I was talking to him earlier and he said, I'm going to pack the car up and go home if people stop smiling in the garage. Well, I think they're going to be smiling long into the evening.
Yeah, and it bodes well, as you said, there's a race tomorrow, and it bodes well confidence-wise. These guys are new to the championship, probably obviously wanted to go for a win, but wouldn't have expected this so early on. So awesome job by both drivers.
Just half a lap to go for Thomas Enger. Craig Dolby poised on the pit wall, ready to celebrate as Enger just navigates the loop. So they turn out of the loop and then through Aintree for the final time down the Wellington Straight. And well, really, this has just been the perfectly executed race for the team. They knew their strategy and they've done exactly what they needed to. Exactly.
They knew where their strength was with Thomas Enger in the second half of the race. Craig did a great first stint. So, yeah, he's up there on the pit wall ready to celebrate with his team and for a much deserved win.
So through the final corner, it's going to be victory in the 7th round of the International GT Open at Silverstone for Thomas Enger and Craig Dolby. They take a win on the team's International GT Open debut. A brilliant performance. 2nd place goes to the championship leaders, Fabrizio Crestani and Thomas Biaggi, with Peter Schothorst and Miguel Ramos completing the podium. Very happy Craig Dolby on the pit wall. Lots to applaud for Biaggi and Crestani. And then 4th to Ewan Hankey and Sally Yullock. 5th for Sean Balfe and Phil Keane. A solid debut for that car. And it should be a GTM victory for Jamie Stanley and Paul McNeely. So, and indeed it is, as they claim 7th. So 2 new teams for this weekend, and they're both on top step of the podium.
Great job by both teams, obviously. I think it's strange not to see a McLaren up on the podium after how they were looking after the first half of the race. But yeah, Lamborghini won 2, albeit in different models, with the BMW in 3rd, makes for a great podium.
So delight for Thomas Enger. He has the door open, he celebrates and waves to the crowd and the marshals around Silverstone Circuit. For Peter Schothorst, a very, very impressive debut in the championship as well, with an immediate getting to grips with the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. So let's have a look at the classification then. The win for Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger. 2nd place, Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crestani. 3rd, Miguel Ramos and Peter Schothorst. 4th, Sally Yullock and Ewan Hankey. 5th, Sean Balfe and Phil Keane. 6th, Fernando Monnier and Gustavo Jackerman. 7th, and GTM winners Paul McNeely and Jamie Stanley, with Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy in 8th. Miguel Costa and Miguel Sardinia in 2nd in the GTM class from Martin Short and Philippe Barrieroth. So in terms of the standings then, Crestani and Biaggi lead by 20 points from Balfe and Keane, with Ramos moving up into a very solid 3rd, just 1 point back from Balfe and Keane. And then Benham and Tappy well up into 5th. Heading down towards Brooklands, a delighted Thomas Enger. He and Craig Dolby, well, talking to Craig earlier, they certainly were reasonably confident. I think not least because Craig's times yesterday had been competitive, and they knew there was a little bit more to come when Thomas Enger got in the car, and that was exactly how it has panned out. But tomorrow is a new race. We will be back with live action from race 2 from 3:15 British summertime tomorrow, and they'll be qualifying for that race mid-morning. So half the weekend done for the teams, but they have still got plenty more racing to come. As Craig Dolby waits in Parc Fermé, as it's a fairly long trip back to the pits at the end of the race. The drivers, what it does mean is it gives the teams plenty of time and opportunity to assemble. So race winners, Thomas Enger and Craig Dolby. They celebrate. Dolby opens the door and goes to proper immediate congratulations to Thomas Enger. You can see Enger smiling underneath the helmet. I think he enjoyed that enormously. 2nd place for Fabrizio Crestani and Thomas Biaggi, and then 3rd, Miguel Ramos and Peter Schothorst. And really, for Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger, that was for them almost as straightforward a win as they could have. They had a strategy for the race, and it seemed like it was executed perfectly. A huge smile from Peter Schothorst. Really, really impressive performance at the wheel of the BMW. It certainly is going to help Miguel Ramos's championship challenge. As Thomas Enger makes sure that he congratulates everybody from the Essex Motorsport team.
Well done, buddy.
The rest of the drivers all enjoying the congratulations and celebrations in Parc Fermé before they get whisked off up to the rostrum. And we'll very shortly be able to hear from our race winners.
Craig Dolby, Thomas Henge, nice win in this first appearance in the GTOpen this year. An excellent race.
Yeah, it was a great race. I think I made it a bit harder for Thomas when I didn't get a great start, but then my lap times were consistent, so we knew that we had the pace as a whole, and we had a strategy that I think we both stuck to quite well, and yeah, it definitely worked out well at the end.
And Thomas, it seems that the Gallardo is still competitive.
We know it's competitive. We knew it before, and we know now. Everybody saw it. I mean, we worked hard yesterday on race setup, and we didn't even try to go for a fast lap time. This morning, made a fantastic job in qualifying, and I think because we had really great setup, great team, thanks to Nigel Mustil and right engineering, we had a car to beat in a race, and I'm really glad that it wasn't easy, but I'm really glad that it happened, and we could have celebrated our first win.
Well done, guys. We hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
So two very happy drivers, and will they be the first combination this season to do the double in the International GT Open? We'll find out tomorrow. So from the line, it was Kobe Ledegaard who got the jump from pole position as Craig Dolby got shuffled back by a hard starting, hard charging Gustavo Jacobsen. Also making ground early on was Phil Keane, as problems on the first lap for Colin Noble and Sally Yullock, they tangled and they took Tom Ashnell with evasive action as well. Phil Keane spent several laps bottled up behind Gustavo Jacobsen before eventually finding his way past the BMW, and a few moments later Craig Dolby was able to do the same. Meanwhile, Sally Yullock, putting behind him the disappointment of that early spin, was absolutely carving through the field. It was an inspired performance from Yullock. Post pit stops, we had some brilliant racing as Alex West led the way, but Thomas Enger was able, after some robust resistance from West and Sean Balfe, to carve his way through and take the lead. Unfortunately for the McLaren duo, they moments later had Fabrizio Crostani looking to do much the same to them, and Crostani was able to pick his way past the McLarens and up into second position again. Though the task wasn't made easy for him, but Crostani keen to execute some very bold moves at the wheel of the Lamborghini Huracan. Also picking his way up the order was Peter Schottforst in the Theo Martin BMW. As he went past West, however, it all went wrong. The Swedish driver rotating around and eventually spinning down to finish in 10th place. For Sean Balfe, he was demoted to 5th late on after a charging drive from Ewan Hankey eventually gave he and Yullock 4th place. Jamie Stanley and Paul McNeely took the GTAM win on their debut in the championship, but Thomas Enger and Craig Dolby celebrating victory in Silverstone for the Wessex Racing team. Super performance for the team on their championship debut, with championship leaders Crostani and Biaggi in second. So on to the podium presentations, and third place for Peter Schottforst and Miguel Ramos. Second place for Fabrizio Crostani and Thomas Biaggi. And our race winners, Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger. And Nigel Mustle, of course, onto the podium as the team representative, the man behind the squad. home win for the Wessex team, and Nigel Mustle with the drivers Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger here at Silverstone. On to the presentation of the trophies. Smiles for Peter Schothorst and Miguel Ramos. It's going to be an intriguing title fight between Ramos, Crestani and Biaggi, and also Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, with our championship leaders consolidating their position with a solid second place. It builds their buffer over the rest of the chasing pack. And race winners Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger. Lovely trophies this weekend in the layout of the Silverstone circuit. And the winning team trophy for Nigel Mustle. So the drivers will pose for the photos before making merry with the bubbly. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, it's goodbye from Silverstone.
As well, so look at the data today, see how we can move forward against it tomorrow. Yeah, that's basically what we're doing now. We're going